welcome to episode 80 of the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
I am Ian.
And where'd my notes go? Oh, there they are.
You have notes?
Actually, I do have notes, but I also have like the intro stuff I have to read.
I understand.
Any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeandgeneralpodcast.com. We're on Facebook. On Twitter, we are at LIG Pod. Shows available on Podbean, iTunes, Google, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, just about everywhere else. Oh, and I don't know why, but I always forget to mention our YouTube channel. You can go check us out on YouTube. There's no pictures or anything. It's just the logo of the show and then the audio.
Yeah.
But hey, if you're somewhere...
There's a lot of other podcasts that do it too.
Yeah, so...
Just giving people other options.
Yeah, and we don't get a whole lot of views on there.
No.
I mean, some of them we do. There's a couple episodes I'm like, oh, that was a lot of people that watched that on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
I've been known to like be in my car and want to watch something or have something on YouTube that doesn't really require the visuals. It's like a debate or something. I've listened to that on YouTube in my car. So
I've been known to watch like TV episodes
while you're driving.
While I'm driving.
Yeah, I don't do that. I just
if there's any police out there listening to the podcast, please don't come after me.
Yeah. Nick drives a new model. Let's
leave that out.
Right.
Especially like when I moved back from Tennessee, I might have talked about it on the show before, but like the first 2 or so months that I lived here, I lived with my sister-in-law because Mandy and the kids stayed in Tennessee until the school year was finished.
Right.
So every other weekend I would drive from Michigan to Tennessee, and I drive pretty fast, so I made it in like 7.5 hours.
Pretty fast, yeah.
But, yeah.
Because really, it should take you closer to 8.5, 9 hours.
No, it should not. It's 550 miles, Ian.
Yeah, well, most of that drive is 55 speed limit.
No, it's not.
All of Kentucky is 55.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
It's not, Ian.
All right, well, that's just me then.
And the only part that's 55 miles an hour is when you're driving through northern Ohio.
It just seemed like there was a lot of spots where it's 55.
Because I know for most of the time, like through like southern Ohio, it's all 70. Through Cincinnati, obviously through like Cincinnati, it slows down. Through the cities, it slows down.
Yeah.
But when you get down onto, was it 71? Is that where you cut across to Louisville?
Yeah.
That's all 70 through there.
Oh.
Then once you get through Louisville and you get on 65, man, it's like, whoosh.
Huh.
Yeah, it's 550 miles. But anyway, where was I even going with that? Oh, yeah. So on the way back from Tennessee, a lot of times I get stuck in traffic in like Cincinnati or something like that.
Right.
And yeah, sure, I'm sitting in traffic. I'll put on a TV show or something, watch something to keep me.
Right. No, I mean, it makes sense. I guess, you're not driving.
No, I'm not like moving. I'm like sitting in dead stop traffic for 45 minutes.
Right.
Because Cincinnati is terrible to drive through.
During the day.
During rush hour, it's terrible.
Absolutely.
Well,
so is when you hit the Ohio border. Well, that's Cincinnati. I'm thinking even Louisville. That's what I was thinking, Louisville, which isn't the border.
Well,
but when you hit Louisville rush hour, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, and I never really drive through Louisville. I take
the Waterford
the Watterson Highway or whatever it is
around it. Yeah. Either way, I've done it both ways, and it seems to take the same amount of time. But I drive at night when I've gone down there and come back, so it's traffic isn't bad.
No,
but if there's no traffic, it's about the same time.
Just as long as you don't fall asleep on the wheel. Behind the wheel.
Well, I've stopped and taken naps.
No, don't you? So the first time I ever went down there, Ian and I drove down there, and it was right after your sister moved down there.
Yeah.
And like we left my house in Ypsi in Michigan at like 11 o'clock at night. Remember we bowled that night. We bowled that night. Because we were in a bowling league. Yeah, we're white trash. But anyway,
don't knock bowling. I don't like white trash, but I do like
Hey, come on, man. Anything you get better as you consume alcohol cannot be considered a sport.
Right.
But so anyway, we get done bowling. We leave the house at 11. So it's like 7:30 in the morning by the time we hit Nashville. And I'm like, Ian's asleep in the passenger seat.
Yeah, I was out.
And apparently I was asleep behind the wheel because I like woke up and I was on like had moved over like 4 lanes on the highway.
Yeah. And then you yelled at me because I was supposed to be keeping you awake.
Yeah. He was asleep. Fucking bastard.
Hey, I don't tell you. You bore me to sleep. That's what you do.
Just like we do our listeners.
Yes. Yeah.
When we talk about useless nonsense like we are talking about.
Oh, today is even worse. Today's topic is
cool.
It's fun, but it's useful. It's definitely useless.
It's definitely useless. So we've talked about conspiracies several times, and if I was a good host, I probably would go back and tell you what episode numbers they were, but I'm not, so I didn't.
No, you're a terrible host.
Yeah.
You're a terrible host, which makes me like the shittiest co-host ever.
But I know we've talked about it several times. But yeah, you can go back. We talked about flat earthers and president. Well, we just did presidential conspiracies not too long ago. And so we're going to talk tonight, or it's not really tonight, but we're going to talk on this episode about something we've touched on before.
Yep.
And I figured we'd go into a little bit more detail, and that is 9/11 conspiracies, because there's a bunch of them out there. I wouldn't say a bunch of them, but there's definitely some interesting ones.
There's a few,
Before we get into that, though, I wanted to touch on some other conspiracy news.
Okay. Ooh.
And I don't know, and it's been like all
this is news to me too. I wasn't expecting this. Yay!
It's been all over the news the last couple of weeks, and I'm not sure. It might not be by the time this episode comes out.
Right.
But have you heard about the whole Area 51 thing?
I've been seeing memes about it.
Well, the memes are fucking hilarious. But anyway, so apparently there's this event that was created on Facebook or online, and I think originally it started out as a joke, but it's kind of taken on a life of its own. It's the let's see if you want to check it out, it's called Storm Area 51. Yeah. They can't stop all of us. Okay. And
they can shoot a great number of us.
Well, yeah, one of the memes I saw was like. It was talking about someone coming from the future and talking about the Great Area 51 massacre.
That's what it would be.
Pretty much. So on the event online, it says, we'll all meet up at Area 51 Alien Center tourist attraction and coordinate our entry. If we Narturo run, which I guess Narturo is
like
it's an anime character. We can move faster than bullets. Let's, and then it finishes off by saying, "Let's see them aliens."
Yeah, I've seen. There was a picture of Will Smith holding the little baby alien from Men in Black.
There's a bunch of them.
I'm not going to say exactly what it said, but guys, 9 months after.
Yeah.
One
of the ones I saw, it said it has a guy with a bicycle, and it says, "What I'm going to ride on the way to Area 51," and then it says. And then another picture on the other side says, "Me on my way home," and it's like from E.T. Them flying through the air with the alien in the basket.
And there was another one where it was a woman laying on like a picnic blanket, and the alien from Alien is ripping out of her stomach.
Oh, really?
And it's like 9 months after the storm. I just thought it was I didn't know there was an actual thing.
Yeah, that's an actual thing. So apparently it's all going to happen September 20th is what the original event was planned for. And
and they've been advertising it. So even if the government was like, okay, we can't shoot all these people,
let's move the aliens.
Let's just move everything.
Or okay, let's say this. So let's say that there's really aliens there and spaceships and everything.
Right.
I'm sure that's so secure that
we'd never even know there was like.
Well, no. Even if you got in, you wouldn't be able to access it.
That's what I mean. They'd be like, "Oh, there's just offices and stuff here."
Yes,
but there's like hidden rooes and shit and basements.
Exactly.
Probably goes down 300 feet into the ground.
Probably. But yeah, it's I've been laughing. All the memes have been hilarious.
Yeah.
But I see that it's been planned out by very thoughtfully by intelligent adults, though.
Yeah. Well, when they're using Naruto as a tactic.
Yeah.
They can move faster than bullets. I don't think that's possible.
They can't kill all of us.
Right.
But yeah, right now it's 640,000 people have pledged.
Really?
To storm Area 51.
Huh.
And obviously they're looking for E.T.
How many people do you think will actually show up?
Probably 12.
I was saying conservatively 12, high end maybe 100. 150 people.
Actually, you know what? Probably more people than that would.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if...
Because on the morning of...
There'll probably be September 20th, there'll be like, I don't know, probably a couple hundred people there probably.
Yeah,
I could see that. Because there's some fucking nutbags out there that really would.
Yeah, but
guess what?
600,000 people who pledged, I can't see the vast majority of them waking up on that morning going, "Oh, I'm going to go get shot today."
Because that's the thing. The government's going to shoot you.
Yeah, they have. They post signs everywhere.
Yes.
They will shoot you.
Yes.
So, I don't know. Whatever.
So yeah, I saw that.
I'll just sit back and see what they find. What the hell?
Well, I guess I don't remember what branch, but there was some members of the military that have come out recently and said that they routinely see not like alien crafts, but unidentified flying objects all the time that they fly.
And there have been a lot of people, whether it's true or not, but a lot of people who have worked there, claim to have worked there, who have been in the military, who say they've seen alien bodies and alien ships and all that other shit.
But this is like people that have come out, like established military members that have come out.
Well, so were these other people. They worked there. They were, ex-military.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about like alien stuff. I'm saying that they're in the air, flying their jet fighter or whatever, and there are things that they have seen that they don't know. They don't know what it is.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're little green men.
Yeah,
they're just like UFOs.
Well, they're
like
not
the
green anymore.
sense.
They're grays. Those are the grays. You got to get your conspiracy theories correct here. The little aliens with the big eyes and the big head.
Those are grays.
Those are grays,
and they're gray too, aren't they?
Yeah, well, supposedly. I don't know if they're actually gray. I don't know what color aliens are. They could be green. They could be yellow.
They could be whatever.
Purple. Yeah, we're equal opportunity.
Why you gotta be hating on the different colored aliens?
I'm not. I'm saying that there's probably a vast diversity of skin tones in the universe.
Maybe they're just like shapeshifters.
I'm sure there are. If aliens exist, there's probably shapeshifters,
and they're probably running the government.
Yeah, but their true form is reptilian.
Yes. The reptiles.
Have you seen any of those? I mean, we can go on and on about conspiracy theories, but if you go on YouTube, you can actually see people who've taken like news reports seen these where like their eyes shimmer or something. There
was one I saw where President Obama is standing there, and one of his the Secret Service agents turns, and he looks like a reptile as he turns.
Yeah,
but it's obviously the way it's shot. It's not.
I'm not buying it. I'm
no,
sorry.
reptile people. Come
on.
I'm
not buying it. But it's funny. It's fascinating the things that people will cling on to.
Oh yeah. Well, I think my favorite is the Hollow Earth one.
Oh God, yeah. There's I know I've mentioned it before, but I watched the YouTube channel quite a bit. Simon Dan, and he's a British guy who just basically sits around and debunks flat Earth videos.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I think we talked about it.
Yeah, we mentioned it before, but he finally got around to one that was a hollow Earth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's just like,
this is ridiculous.
I don't even think he could tolerate it. It looked like it was killing him to even talk about it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think our Hollow Earth one was back in the 30s or something like that.
1930s?
No, episode.
I know what you meant. I was being a smart ass.
By the way, prior to episode 50, somehow our numbering got all screwed up on iTunes.
Oh, as far as the order?
Yeah, no. How the episodes are numbered, because iTunes automatically numbers episodes.
Okay.
But somehow, if you go back, it's before episode 50.
They're out of order.
They're numbered incorrectly. So I still have to go back and fix all that. But, but if you look in the show description, the correct number is in there. And I want to say it was back in the 35, 36, 37, somewhere in that range. But
probably go on Podbean. Podbean would probably be more accurate as far as the list then.
Yeah, but the shows aren't numbered on Podbean.
Oh, even going that far back?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
None of the shows on Podbean are numbered. They're numbered through iTunes.
Oh, okay.
Because it's something, I don't know why, but iTunes automatically does it.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, we're going to talk 9/11 conspiracies. I just wanted to get that one out of the way. I just thought
no, it was fascinating because I didn't even know that was a thing. Like I said, I've seen the memes and giggled a bit, but I didn't realize it was part of something.
Yeah,
special.
It's never a good idea to storm
a military
compound.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about one today. Someone they think really didn't fly a plane into the Pentagon, but
those are some of the funnier ones. I mean. We'll get to it because it's just when you sit down and you just stop and think rationally about it and analyze it. There's just even no way that they could have pulled it off, regardless.
No, and real quick, if you want to go back, episode 47 was the one where we talked about flat Earth, and the Hollow Earth. Yeah. We get into the whole Hollow Earth thing, and I've talked to the Hollow Earth. I've talked about Hollow Earth stuff with people at work, and people are like, "What the hell?" Yeah. So go back and listen to episode 47. It's got all this stuff on there.
And I have no problem plugging Simon and Dan because it's a good show. It's a good channel.
So 9/11, so there's 5 really big ones. The first one I guess we'll go into is the main one, that the World Trade Center was brought down by explosives and not airplanes.
Right.
You want to go ahead and give some... This is where Ian gives the background to it.
Oh. Well...
This is where Ian uses his notes and gives background.
Well, I can't give background because, I mean, there's no way to prove whether or not it was true. You can't give background.
But you know okay.
Statement. But
so
I can give you the details.
Ian has watched lots of these videos.
I have, because I get bored and I watch... Sometimes I'll sit and watch these for hours, and sometimes I'll just turn them on and fall asleep to them, so...
Actually, real quick before I know I've interrupted you like 5 times.
That's
already.
Okay. I'm used to it.
But I just want to get this out of the way, though.
You just yelled at me about not having details, but then you interrupted me. That's
well,
okay.
Hold on, because I just want to say this before we get into these. Because do you know who Michael Meacher is?
The name doesn't sound familiar.
So he was the environment minister in Tony Blair's British government.
Okay.
He's even come out and said that the U.S. knowingly failed to prevent the attacks.
Okay.
I just want to say that.
Right.
So he was a member of the British.
We can honestly say that whether or not the actual details of the conspiracies are correct, at the heart of the matter, our own government failed.
Correct.
So and they were complicit by not doing anything.
And the British government believes the same thing. So right. So yeah, let's get some background on the World Trade Center.
Okay, the explosives. When you I guess what leads people to think this is the manner in which the towers fall. And this is the only area where I kind of see where they're coming from, personally. Because if you look at how the towers fall, they shouldn't have fallen that way.
I would argue that they would, but okay.
Well, here's the thing. If they fell straight down into their own footprint, two things would have had to have occurred. There should have been more damage lower down because the base, and because otherwise, even if the top fell in, it would have stopped. Because, well, this is the thing. When you look at the rubble, there's a lot of pictures.
There's a lot of assumptions being.
There is a lot of assumptions, but if you look at the rubble, the center column, if you have to. And I've done this. There's a documentary you can watch on Netflix, and it is a documentary because it's just chronicling the construction of the trade centers from the 70s. The very center of the building is a column of 40 steel girders straight up, and the building itself, the floors are built around them. So, what forced those the weight that whole center column was the foundation of holding those buildings up. If the building hadn't been brought down, the floors themselves would have fallen, but the columns would not have. And even if the weight of everything was strong enough to pull the columns down, there would have still been 40 columns worth of rubble at the base. All those columns were cut. I mean, they looked cut. There's pictures of actual cuts in the steel girders.
I think you have to be careful where you get information from, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. Right. I'm just saying that since our last conversation on this topic, I've looked up some of this stuff, and you're right. Some photos do look like that. Yeah. But it's really funny that those come from the groups that are
I remember seeing those on TV, though.
Are big truther groups.
Right.
And then there's other photos that aren't really associated with these groups that don't necessarily
it still doesn't explain where those columns went.
They are. I mean, you can see them. Yeah, so there was this big
hole. There's a fucking hole. There's no columns in there.
There are.
Yeah, in pieces. The weight of those floors should not have been able to pull all of those columns down.
Millions and millions.
Yes,
of
but
pounds
that's how it was designed. It was fucking designed that way.
But it's simple to think of. If you take it and you basically cut out a chunk in the middle,
but it didn't cut the whole thing.
It went right through
not blast, the first building that fell. It took out the side. It did not take out the whole center.
This is the one thing that I find really interesting, and this is where it does kind of lead to or lean towards the conspiracy side of it.
Right.
That it is interesting that the South Tower only burned for 56 minutes before it collapsed.
Right.
That is Strange, but that doesn't.
And it couldn't have burned hot enough to melt steel.
That's not true.
What is the temperature at which steel melts?
A burning jet fuel? Pretty fucking high.
Yeah, but it's not high enough to melt steel.
Are you positive about that?
Based on what I've read, yes. I mean, we can look at. I'm going to look it up because you can easily look up the melting point of steel, and then you can easily look up the temperature of jet fuel. But I'm not saying that I believe this. I'm just saying I see the questions. There are questions. In my mind, I'm curious too, because I'm not a physicist, but it doesn't make sense for it to have completely collapsed to a hole. There is a fucking hole where those buildings were.
Yes, because there should have been more in the center. Because you can build. Think about Legos. How many underground levels were there to the World Trade Centers?
10, I think.
I thought there were more than that.
No, it wasn't more than 10. 10 levels underneath, because there's parking. Basically, that's where the shopping mall.
There's
and the
more
parking.
than that, yeah.
But no, I don't think there was more than 10. And it sure as hell wasn't 100.
But still, 10. That's 100 feet.
Yeah,
plus
100 feet. But you've got, how many other feet of debris to fill that hole up?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And there are, the people point out in the videos where you can see like explosions, stuff coming out. Yeah,
I take a lot of that with a grain of salt.
I guess the question is there are videos of what appears to be molten steel shooting out of the side of the building, where there's not even any flame, just smoke.
Okay.
The smoke is black, which means the fire is starved for oxygen, which means it's not as hot as you think it is. You can look and see that in every picture. There's black smoke. That means the fire is starved for oxygen, so it's not burning at the maximum temperature anyway.
Depending on what's burning, that also doesn't necessarily mean the entire fire was starved for oxygen.
True.
One part of it may have been.
Right. But the molten steel that you can see dripping out of the building could only have been caused by thermite or something hot enough to literally melt steel in place. So, I mean, again, I don't know. I'm just questioning everything.
By the way, steel melts at around 1,500 degrees.
Okay, and what is the top temperature that jet fuel will burn at?
I'm not sure. No. Go ahead and keep talking while I look it up.
All right. So, I mean, those are the things that lead to the question of these buildings falling the way they did. The first tower that got hit did get hit center by the plane. The second building got hit on the side. So it didn't even cut through the hole.
But if you look at the blast, it comes through it.
Only on the side, though. I know. You're right. It comes through, but it doesn't come. It only comes through on the one side. And even at the speed that we're talking about, it would be pretty tough for a plane that's mostly aluminum bodied to cut through steel, even at that speed. At least all of the steel. It could cut through a couple columns, but it wouldn't cut through the whole 40 columns. To force that much degradation in the stability of the structure. The second building that got hit, if the top part had not fallen directly down, if it had fallen sideways, as physics would, in my opinion, dictate, they would have made perfect sense.
But if you think about, so the World Trade Center is built off this pillar in the middle.
Yeah.
And everything is like suspended from these pillars.
Right.
So really, if you think about it, it wouldn't necessarily fall one way or another if you cut straight through that.
But it didn't cut straight through.
But you don't know that.
But
what I'm
visually
saying,
it didn't.
That's the way it looks, or it appears to look. But all it's got to do is take out that center column, and then it falls straight.
But again, no plane would be able to cut through all of them. We're talking about aluminum-bodied planes through steel.
Yes.
It would cut through some of them, but it wouldn't cut through all of them.
But you can say it.
You're talking about basically slicing right through it.
But look at it this way. How strong is a piece of straw? A piece of straw you would think would be pretty weak.
Right.
But I've seen photos after tornadoes of straw stuck through trees.
Right.
So it's the same principle. If it's going fast enough. It is the same
principle. It'll cut through some of it, but it wouldn't. That straw wouldn't have blown all the way through.
Online it says it can burn up to 2,700 degrees.
Okay. So that theoretically, if the fire wasn't starved, it could have burned hot enough to melt the steel.
Correct.
Okay. So,
but then again, this is also coming off of an article called "Proof That Jet Fuel Weakens the Hell Out of Steel Beams."
So it's maybe a conspiracy theory on the other side of the matter, or not a conspiracy theory, but I don't know, less than accurate, or but we'll say biased information.
It could be. It could be. I'll preface that.
It just doesn't. I've seen. It's kind of like a Jenga set. When it falls, it always falls to the side.
Well, but the thing is, I think too often we think of a conventional structure,
right?
Because you're right, a conventional structure would fall that way.
But look at actual demolitions, building demolitions. The lengths they have to go to make sure it falls in on itself, and that was never the case. And we're talking explosives down below. When I'm talking an actual demolition, they have to precisely plan these things just to make sure. And there are many times you can find videos online where demolitions fail.
Look at when they try to blow up the Pontiac Silverdome.
Right, and that's not even that big. It's just a big circle. It's a dome.
Yeah.
And they failed to bring it down.
They screwed that up. That was a big joke.
It was a big joke, but it does happen. Buildings. There was a demolition. I think it was somewhere in Asia, where they were trying to bring down a building in the middle of a city, and the building fell sideways.
Yes, I saw the video of it.
And we're talking, less than 100 stories. That's a 50-story building. Mm-hmm. It's not even as heavy and big. And they can't even bring that down when it's planned out. It just seems very strange that though those buildings were hit in two different spots at two different times, they fell exactly the same both times. It doesn't make sense.
I wouldn't say it doesn't make sense. I would say that there are enough questions surrounding it that would lead people to make these kind of assumptions.
Exactly. But at least to say something doesn't look right.
And like I said, the South Tower burning for 56 minutes before it collapses.
Right.
That does.
And it was hit higher up, so there's less weight.
It was.
Less weight to force down. So, I mean, and we all know that Building 7 was brought down.
They even said it.
They admitted it. Yeah. Why was it brought down? It was not brought down because of fire.
I will get to that.
There's no... Hold on. Building would not have been a hazard. It was not on fire as bad to justify them bringing the whole building down for a fire. Because buildings catch on fire all the fucking time. They never bring them down.
One of the other conspiracies I'm going to talk about, it's one of the last ones I got on my list to talk about, but it's about the monetary side of it.
Okay.
And I think that's why...
That's the other thing. That's, I guess, to some degree, that's where you can say, okay, there is a possibility here. That maybe there's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
I'm a skeptic about everything. And I try to look at... There's no way I can look at all the evidence. I can't make a determination because I don't have enough of the evidence at hand. Yeah. I can say that there are things that make me wonder. The buildings falling is the biggest thing for me. Everything else I can buy. The government story I have no problem with the government story on everything else. But the way the buildings fall bothers me as just individual.
And like I said, there are legitimate questions that exist out there.
Now, what we're talking about, the conspiracy side of it, is that for some, that's the smoking gun. For me, it's just a question.
Yeah.
But to a lot of people, that's the smoking gun. But I don't really isn't much we can talk about on that beyond. There are a lot of people who disagree with the official story on how the buildings fell, especially when you figure in the Building 7, and there are secondary reports of a lot of unusual activity in the buildings, trucks and stuff arriving at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, being gone before the morning rush comes in, for weeks and weeks leading up to, which we don't know what that is. That could be anything, but it's kind of like there's a lot of smoke here.
On that topic, though, I will say that all the reports that I've read of the unusual activity all kind of go back to one source, and I don't remember the name of it, but it's the website you talked about before. It's a 9/11 truther website.
Is it the Loose Change one?
No, I don't remember the name of it, but it's one specific site where a lot of it seems like all those stories originate from.
Okay.
And everyone that discusses it
spreads out from there, right?
Spreads out.
Well,
from
that's what I said.
source.
Unsubstantiated reports. I don't hearsay, eyewitness reports.
But that's the.
I have a hard time with that.
That's the fuel that feeds these conspiracies,
right?
And that's why I always say, regardless of what your topic, whatever you're looking at, whatever you're researching, you always want to like not only read obviously what's in front of you,
where it's coming from.
Read their sources.
Yeah,
see where the sources are coming from. See where their sources are coming from.
If you can. I mean, if you can't always.
Follow the trail. If there's no sources cited on there, that's kind of already telling you something.
Right, exactly.
Or if all the sources go back to one thing, you should always question it also.
Right. What's the next one?
The next one was is one that I kind of have more questions about than the World Trade Center, and that's the Pentagon. So American Airlines Flight 77 hits the Pentagon, right? And what I find really interesting is like early footage of the wreckage doesn't really show much evidence of an airplane.
No, it doesn't.
And that's kind of always been my issue.
Because the size of the hole relative to the size of this wingspan of the plane.
Well, I think people fail to realize the size of the Pentagon. So the hole doesn't really. When you look at the photos of it, the hole doesn't look big enough until you realize how actually big the Pentagon is.
They've done size comparisons, like the amount of feet from one side of the hole to the other side. The wingspan's larger on an airplane. Than that. And if you look at how the second plane hit I know, because the wings could have broken off. But if you look at how the second plane hit the World Trade Center, it cut through with the wings intact. Yeah. Why wouldn't it have done the same thing on the Pentagon?
The only thing is,
and the Pentagon was concrete, not steel.
The only difference that could be is speed, plane speed. Because, like I said before, the whole straw through a tree.
But
if you plane is slowing down.
The government's argument, is that the plane was going so fast that the wings disintegrated, and which would imply that the speed would have been intense enough to leave wing marks based on that theory. And there's no official video that shows a plane. It shows something, and then the explosion. Yes. And that's
at least with the World Trade Center, there are videos.
We see the planes.
Now, granted, there are people that believe that
we'll get to that later because
the planes are fake, or
I can't.
Or the military emblems have been wiped off the planes,
or that the planes are remote.
Yeah,
and I can dispute that right off the get go too, but we'll get to that. I'm sure that's on your list. So.
Actually, it's not, but we'll talk about it.
Okay.
The Pentagon conspiracy goes that either a missile or an unmanned drone or unmanned plane actually was the culprit for the devastation of the building. Right. But I mean,
because a smaller drone like plane, we see them. I mean, what was shot down by Iran theoretically a few weeks ago, a month ago, was the size of a small plane.
It wasn't theoretically shot down. Well, it absolutely was shot down. But the question is, was it inside their airspace or not?
True, right.
Because Iran says it was inside their airspace, which I believe. Okay, I don't want to necessarily
go off on a tangent.
But yeah, I have a tendency to believe a little more Iran in this situation than our own government, because our own government has a long sordid history and lying when it comes to things like that.
Right.
But that's a complete separate.
Even more so with the recent administration. But, so, I mean, theoretically, it could have been a plane. It was just maybe a drone, which would explain the smaller hole, or the hole that doesn't match a plane, or a commuter plane.
Because the damage done to the Pentagon looks, I won't say minor, but it looks minor compared to what you would think a large jetliner would do.
Right. Now, my issue, and this is, again, it's not, it's just one thing that makes me question. The Pentagon is shaped like a pentagon.
Yes.
Of all the spots it could have hit, it hit the one spot that was investigating all that money that went missing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
I mean, I guess
so coincidental that the terrorists knew how to make it easier for some of our government officials to get away with potential crimes.
Yes.
Same with the Building 7. They were investigating that. They were investigating Enron. They were investigating a bunch of other stuff about the president in Building 7, which did not need to come down, but yet came down anyway.
I don't think that was ever officially announced.
It was. No, that's the established government statement that that's what was going on in Building 7.
Okay. But I also find it quite ironic that an airline, an airline is piloted by an amateur and is able to crash into the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense.
Right.
I just think
I know it almost seems like either that amateur was awesome, like James Bond level amateur, or our defense
is really shitty.
Yeah.
The biggest, most expensive defense in the world.
And like I said, it's just so weird that one specific spot. I mean, it's like, I don't know. There are questions. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I find them fascinating, but
I find it fascinating how people arrive at some of them.
Right, exactly. But there's definitely. I mean, it's like Kennedy. I mean, there's so many things. Like the magic bullet theory, basically is screaming to be said. There's a conspiracy here because there's no way this can fucking happen. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's like there's so many coincidences here that just don't add up. You know.
So the next one is that United Airlines Flight 93, which is the one that crashed in the field in Pennsylvania, was actually shot down.
Okay, I haven't heard that one before. Actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because if you think about it, like, so I don't know if you've seen aerial footage of the wreckage.
I have. It looks like it
looks small.
It does look small, but it looks. The argument is, or the explanation is, that it took a basic nosedive, hit the ground so hard that it disintegrated everything. Because there's not a lot of rubble either. No, there's not really much of anything, and I think that kind of leads to the fact that, or leads people to believe that it was shot down. Because if you think about it, if the airplane is flying and is shot and blown up in air, that obviously the debris is going to be there'll be a much larger debris field, right?
So
that's what I'm wondering.
Whatever spot hits, well, we don't know because.
Well, yeah, we can only go by official.
You only go by official reports.
But I mean, like I said, I've never even heard that theory before.
Yeah, that was out probably.
I just heard
not too long after it happened.
I've heard that they landed a drone, which is why there's less debris, to pad the story that this was a terrorist, whatchamacallit.
Yeah.
I've heard that there was no plane. It was just they blew something up on the spot and said it was a plane.
Well, I mean,
I've heard these things, but I haven't heard that it was shot down.
So what happened to the people? Because
that's the argument for all of the bigger, like the airplanes. There were no airplanes. Well, we have casualties.
But
the
thing is with Flight 93, there are voicemails from the people on the plane calling loved ones and saying
those could have been. Theoretically, those could have been
planted by people that sound exactly like their loved ones.
You never know. I'm playing devil's advocate for a second, because you're right. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah.
Or the other thing is, they could have shot it down, and it might not have been that high above the ground.
Right.
But I guess then there would be even bigger debris field though in that immediate area.
Well, yeah, I mean.
If you shoot it, because if you blow it up high enough, a lot of it's going to disintegrate before it even hits the ground.
You look at the wreckage. Now, granted, we're only looking at aerial view and ground footage from the news reports.
Yeah.
It does not look like a lot. There's no luggage containers that you can see. I mean, there is nothing of real substance. The space shuttle, when it exploded, they had a hell of a lot more rubble.
They did.
Or debris.
Yeah.
When you see the pictures,
space shuttle's a whole hell of a lot bigger than an airplane too.
True, and you're dealing with
probably hundreds of times the size.
Well, the shuttle itself isn't that much bigger than an airplane. I mean, it is. It's about twice the size.
Is it? I thought it was more than that.
No, it's about twice the size.
Because
you figure
when the Challenger took off, they hadn't lost all of the rest of the pieces of it, because it comes apart and then the shuttle comes off of it.
Yeah, but it exploded long before that.
I know,
it
that's what I'm
exploded
saying.
As one piece. You're right.
That's why I'm saying
with the fuel tankers and all that. Yeah, that's a lot, absolutely. But still, they were able to collect all that from a large area. We were seeing pictures in real time. There wasn't even that much there.
And I would think that if there was this, more spread out debris field, I think you would hear more reports of Jim Bob finding stuff in the field.
Why is there an airplane piece in my fucking yard or in my house? You would have heard about it.
But then again, it was also over a really rural area, so
that's true too.
I'm not going to say if it was shot down, it was shot down over a very convenient area where none of it would really.
I guess the question that comes up then if the government were to say that it shot it down, it would be kind of a double-edged sword. It would be, well, you basically killed American citizens, but you killed them for a good reason.
Yeah.
And that's the bad side. The good side is that, okay, we may have dropped the ball on the first 2 planes, but we caught the third.
Yeah.
So it seems to me like I, as a government official, even though you have to explain that you killed, the government itself killed these people, most people would have accepted it because it had to be done.
Exactly.
Whereas, the other side of it, it would have made the government look a little bit better. And the fact that they didn't do that, it makes me think that it wasn't shot down. It was brought down by the people on the plane, as the reports go.
And you're right. That's it. This is a conspiracy theory that I don't really buy into at all.
I can't. I just have a hard time with it because I think the government would have acknowledged that they shot it down.
Yeah. But then again, if they had shot it down and admitted to it, like you said, though, I think there were more people saying, "Well, why?" Because they knew the first 2 planes had been hijacked,
right,
for a while before they hit the World Trade Centers.
Yeah, well, they knew it was coming. I don't know if they knew the exact day, but they knew it was coming. So they didn't put any.
Well, that kind of goes into the next conspiracy I had.
Okay.
Which was that the U.S. government knew about the attacks and stood the military down.
Yeah, well, they were running exercises that day.
Yeah,
and away down south, and which moved a lot of military personnel and equipment out of those areas where the planes would have been.
Yeah. So the conspiracy goes that NORAD ordered fighter jets to stand down and allow the planes to reach their targets.
Well, I mean, that's saying a lot. I mean, there should be record of that.
Would there be, though?
Well, I mean, I guess it could be destroyed, but NORAD records everything they do. They have to. Whether or not we get any access to that because that's another story. But as a rule, I would imagine all that stuff is recorded, and it seems to me like that's a huge order. There's hijacked airplanes. Stand down.
I mean, it's not a whole lot to hide, really.
No, that's an easy hide for sure. But that seems so.
But if you think about it,
if I'm an airline, if I'm a pilot in the U.S. Air Force and I'm flying, and I get word that 3 airliners have been hijacked, and I'm told to stand down. Okay, I'm going to follow my orders. Mm-hmm. But then when I hear what happened as a result of us standing down, the loss of lives, I would have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but and you're probably right. I think there
somebody would have come out and said something.
But I think it's a little strange that the most powerful air force in the world
couldn't take down
wouldn't be able to intercept 4 planes.
4 planes?
Yeah. 2 hit the World Trade Center.
Oh, the Pentagon.
1 hit the Pentagon.
I forgot about the Pentagon for a second.
So 4 planes.
4 planes, yeah.
And like I said, they knew. I don't know how much time they knew, how much time they had between when they knew the planes were hijacked until they hit the World Trade Center. But in that area, there should have been enough time to get...
There should have been enough time to get at least the second, third, and fourth plane. The first plane, maybe not. The first plane, I can see there not being enough time to scramble.
There was, 5 minutes?
Oh, no. The plane, all those planes were in the air. The first one was in the air for almost an hour before it crashed into the building.
No. What I'm saying, though, there was 5 minutes between the time the first plane hit the second plane.
No, it was almost an hour.
Was it really?
Yeah. I'd have to look at the time frame again.
Yeah,
it was a while.
You have to look. I don't think it was that much of a time difference.
No, it was. It was at least 45 minutes, or maybe. I guess maybe.
We'll Google it while I keep talking.
Okay, you talk.
So yeah, I would assume that the military would be able to get some kind of response up. And I think that kind of, and maybe it was because the resources had been moved, because of the training missions that were going on at the time. Uh-huh. But it just seems really strange to me that we weren't able to intercept those planes. And that's why it kind of makes sense. And maybe not make sense, but that's where I can kind of buy into the fact that, okay, maybe something, and maybe they never even got up off the ground. Maybe the conversation was taking place between members in the government and NORAD behind the scenes, and the decision was made not even to send up planes. So maybe the pilots didn't even know anything about it.
True. But again, if it were me and I found that out after the fact, it would have raised some flags for me. As a soldier, you take the responsibility to follow orders regardless, but you I think any soldier still has a moral obligation. I'm not getting a signal on my phone for some reason. I'm even connected to your Wi-Fi, so you're going to have to look out. I just typed in 9/11 timeline. It'll tell you the time frames, what time each thing happened.
Okay. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the whole NORAD and all that?
Yeah, it just seems unlikely that there wouldn't have been at least one or two whistleblowers who came out even anonymously.
But like I said, maybe they didn't know.
They would have figured it out after the fact. They would have said, "Okay, we knew." The government knew. I mean, you can see the timeline as a pilot. You're going to know these things. You're going to know these order of how these things occurred, and you can say, "Why was I told to stand down when we knew there was a?"
But no, what I'm saying though is, it's possible that the order was never that they never even got an order to go to their planes. Not necessarily, not even to stand down.
Right. So I mean, that actually makes more sense. Which again, still kind of disqualifies the conspiracy theory. Is my point. It just there would have been more people who would have come out about it, because we're not talking about minor stuff here. This is a world changing event, and I just can't see even the proudest American pilot sitting back and saying, I'm going to keep my mouth shut about this. I can't do it, or to do for the government. I can't see that. There would have been someone who would have said something about that.
So at 8:46 in the morning
is when the first plane hit.
Hit the North Tower.
Okay.
The South Tower was hit at 9:03, so that was less than 20 minutes, 17 minutes.
Okay. Well, it wasn't 5 minutes.
No, but it wasn't a whole lot. So let me see. So Flight 11 was hijacked at 8:14. Okay. So it hit the World Trade Center 32 minutes later. So that's not a whole lot of time.
No, but we're talking about the U.S. military. They can mobilize at least the Air Force in a matter of 10 minutes. They have to be able to do that, because we're talking about nuclear strikes and everything else.
Yeah.
They're trained to mobilize quickly. So theoretically, they could have gotten the second plane, because that would have given them 45 minutes.
Well, not even. So the second plane was hijacked at roughly 8:42 to 8:46 approximately, and then it hit the World Trade Center 20 minutes later.
Okay.
So
but again, there's speculation in terms of how quickly the terrorists took over the planes. They can't know that for sure.
Well, they know when the flight path changes.
Right. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything either. They could have been in control of the plane for 10, 15 minutes before that. We don't know that.
That's true, but that at that point is when they knew something was up.
Right.
When the flight paths changed.
True. But I'm just pointing out that we have to take the timeline slightly with a grain of salt too. But we can pinpoint exactly when it would have theoretically been known that something was wrong.
Yeah. So at 9:28 is when Flight 93 was hijacked, and they would probably know that from phone calls.
Phone calls, yeah.
And then it was at 10:03 is when it crashed.
So that one flew for how long then?
35 minutes.
35 minutes. Okay. So theoretically, if any of them were going to get shot down, that would have been the one.
But that's roughly about how long they knew about the first flight.
That's true, but they'd already known that there was issues going on. I mean, we already had two planes crash.
That's very true.
So they're, the heads up. Okay, we've got 2 planes have hit the buildings. We just got word that this one's up in the air with hijackers. Let's mobilize.
Yeah. But
again, it doesn't. The debris field doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't.
It doesn't look right.
It doesn't look right.
Yeah, it definitely brings up questions. The only thing I don't see on here, I'm going to scroll through here, is the one with the Pentagon.
Yeah, that one's going to always be the question too. I mean I don't know. It just seems like, they can speculate that the one that crashed in Pennsylvania was headed for the White House, but
yeah, that's
speculation. But
it kind of, if you look at the flight path, though, it looks like they're
way out.
But they're heading in that general direction.
Yeah, but
so Flight 77, which was the one that hit the Pentagon, was hijacked at roughly 8:50 in the morning.
Okay.
And it crashed into the Pentagon at 9:40.
So that's almost an hour.
Almost an hour.
And it hit the center of our defense network.
Yeah.
They had 50 minutes to watch the plane that hit the center of our defense system. You can see why it's easy to come up with ideas and questions for sure.
And it was, it was in the air for a half an hour before it got hijacked.
Right. And that's the one we don't have. Well, we don't have visual on the one in Pennsylvania, but we.
You would think they would have visual. There would be some kind of.
It's the Pentagon. They have video. They have it.
They have it. They'd have to.
And if it seems to me that's another thing, I can understand why people are latching on to conspiracy theories, because if it proves their story, then why wouldn't they release it?
All right. So the last one I wanted to touch on was the whole money aspect of it. Okay. And that was that inside traders knew about the tax before it happened.
Yes.
And this is the one that I kind of buy into more than the other ones.
Right. But if that's true, then that means members of our own government knew it was coming, either through planning it or knowing it's going to happen.
No.
Because some of those inside traders were government officials.
Okay. But a lot of it, you could say, came from members inside Al-Qaeda because they had money in the United States. They had investments in the United States. Right. If you're trying to fund your terrorist organization and you're going to plan an attack like this, it would make sense to make some money off of it to fund future endeavors. Right. So in the days leading up to the attacks, do you know what a put option is? A put option is an investment that only pays off if the stock drops.
Okay, yeah.
So you put a put option on something and the stock goes down. It only pays out when that stock bottoms out. Okay. So in the days leading up to the attack, there was a large amount of put options on two airlines. Mm-hmm. American and United were the two airlines. Right. Which are the two airlines that were involved in the plane crashes. Right. So those put options paid out because their stocks dropped after the attack. Yep. Now, granted, the 9/11 Commission came out. Well, they came to the conclusion that they were just coincidences, and that no traders knew of the attacks. The SEC launched an investigation that included Osama bin Laden into these traders
because through his family.
Yeah. So, but nothing was ever really proven. So, also, some insurance companies also had, in the 3 days before the attack, their trades also went up. Mm-hmm. Travelers Insurance was one, which was estimated that they paid $500 million in claims. Right. They had about 45 times their normal trading in the days before the attack. So it makes sense that, hey, if you have an investment in the World Trade Center, like in the actual structure of it, if you have insurance policies, if you're the owner of it and have insurance policies on the buildings, it makes sense that, hey, let's pull down Building 7. Right. Because we're going to make money off of it.
Yep. Well, it's funny because the main guy,
I don't remember the guy's name.
Yeah, the owner of the building, the one who he picked up a year before, or less than a year before the attacks. He picked up the lease on the World Trade Center. So basically, he's like the owner of the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
90 days, I think it was, or 30 days before the attacks, he added to his insurance policy to include terrorist attack, which on the surface makes sense because of 93. But after the attacks, he was able to double his insurance take because he was able to claim that both buildings were separate attacks. Yep. So he actually doubled his money, doubled his insurance his return on that. And he's the one who claims, claims to bring down Building 7. Yep. He said, I forgot the word he used.
Bring it down or something. Pull it or something.
Pull it. Let's just pull it.
Yeah.
He says, in his words, he's doing it as, but
a preventative measure. But
there was no
immediate
need.
There was no immediate danger.
Because the fires were essentially extinguished. There were still some fires in the building, but they were mostly extinguished. Yeah. So bringing that building down there was no logical reason to bring that building down.
Other than
insurance
money.
and maybe to cover up those other things that were going on. But again, that's all conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and also along with these investment companies and the airlines that had increased trading, there was also a defense contractor. I don't remember the exact one, but they had 6 times the normal trading the day before 9/11.
Which was that Monday.
Yeah, the day before. And Fidelity Investments and TD Waterhouse profited $5 million from their investments prior to just the days leading up to 9/11.
Wow.
$5 million they profited.
Just in a few days.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, they always say follow the money.
And it was Fidelity and TD Waterhouse were the ones that were kind of tied to Osama bin Laden.
Right.
Or had ties to the family.
And then you also figure in the oil connections in terms of not directly, but as the result of the Iraq War, which this was used as an excuse for the Iraq War. There's proof that certain members of the administration were planning on going into Iraq from day one.
Yeah, well, I don't remember the guy's name, but he was a member of the incoming or the new Bush administration.
Yep.
I don't remember what his position was, but he wrote a book in the early to mid 2000s where he discussed the meeting in the White House where Dick Cheney met with oil executives, and they were deciding how to break up which oil fields in Iraq.
Yep. And that was
prior to the September 11th.
And several of these people wrote that journal describing how they would need a Pearl Harbor level attack in order to get the people rallied up behind, which is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
9 months, not even 7 months after the administration comes into power.
Yep.
So again, these little things add up, and you can see why there's conspiracy theories. But again, I'm a skeptic. I need evidence to see. You need to be able to say definitively, this leads to this, to this, to this.
I guess the other thing is, I wonder if this attack would have happened, say, under an Obama administration, would there be as many questions? And I strictly mean, there were so many people inside the Bush administration that had ties to so many dirty things over the years.
It's easy to see dirt where there's a lot of dirt around.
Yes.
Well, I guess it would depend on the players.
And that's what I mean.
Because even with the conspiracy theories, let's just say that at the core, members of our own government conspired to set up this attack in order to profit for themselves, for their friends. Let's just say that's true. I don't think Bush himself was as aware as others might make him to be.
No, I think if there was a central figure in all this,
it was
probably
Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld.
Yeah,
because those were the two main ones.
Yeah.
And then some other smaller players. I legitimately cannot see, if it were me, I would have intentionally kept Bush out of the loop because of plausible deniability.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to sell to the people if he himself believes what he's saying.
And you know what?
Because he wasn't that bright. He couldn't lie.
I wouldn't say that.
He's not good enough. He's not a good enough speaker to be able to lie effectively.
Correct.
Unless he truly believed it.
I would say, as much as I disliked George Bush, and disliked a lot of the things he did, I don't believe
he personally,
in 1 second, that he would have allowed something like that to happen with him being president.
Right, you would hope.
Well, because look, if you were George Bush and Dick Cheney comes to you and says, look, this is what's going to happen. I know that there's going to be thousands of Americans that are going to die, but this is what we need to do X, Y, and Z down the line. You as a president, you would assume your response would be, well, no, because even if you're a bad fucking person, you know that's going to reflect negatively on the rest of your presidency.
Yeah.
And not only your presidency, but for the remainder of American history, it's going to go down as you were the president when it happened.
Right.
So you would assume that George Bush would have been like, no, I'm not going along with this. Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? You know?
Yeah. No, well, like I said, whether his moral compass would have been intact or not, I just don't think. I think as a plan goes, you've got to keep Bush out of the loop.
Yeah.
So by that nature, not to say that he's not guilty of war crimes, because he is. As president, he's guilty for every innocent person who died in Iraq. But as far as 9/11 goes, it would make too much sense to keep him out of the loop so that you can maintain that plausible deniability.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So as far as Obama, if it happened under Obama, I would imagine exactly the same thing. The difference might be that I think Obama, I mean, this is just my personal opinion, because, again, we're dealing with a president who you could argue committed war crimes.
Well, people think that Obama did too, but
I'm speaking of Obama.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
His drone campaign was technically war crimes.
Exactly.
So, or at least him allowing the drone campaign. But I think he had a slightly stronger moral compass. I think he would have had the investigation. He would have forced the investigation stronger, because that's the other thing. There's three other things that you didn't bring up in the 5. One is that the 9/11 Commission was completely underfunded, rushed.
Oh yeah,
and didn't really come up with anything. There's a lot of magic bullets type stuff in that report.
Yeah.
2, there's a conspiracy theory that there were no planes at all; they were missiles, and that in the news footage there were CGI'd planes.
Too many different video.
We're talking 2001. There's no way they could have CGI'd planes into live news footage, even if it was delayed by 4 or 5 seconds, which is their argument, that there was a 4 or 5 second delay in some of the news reports.
They wouldn't be able to do that today.
Exactly. There's no way they could have CGI'd planes in.
No.
And you couldn't. You've got still people on the street who are seeing planes.
Yeah.
So
there's dozens of different videos, at least of the second plane hitting.
Right. So there's 2 things: the fact that the government tried to hush up the 9/11 Commission.
No.
There were no planes. That's another conspiracy theory. And then here's my argument against there not being any planes, or that they were military planes. We have lists of casualties. We have family members who lost people in those planes, not just the buildings, but in the planes. So where did those people go? One of the people who died on one of the planes that crashed, I can't remember which, it was the South or North Tower, was the widow of Anthony Perkins.
Yeah.
The actor. And her son is also an actor. Their son is also an actor. His mother died in that plane. He doesn't gain anything. He didn't get anything out of that by saying my mom was on one of those planes.
Yeah.
So why would he say that?
I guess if you were to buy into the conspiracy that it was a military action, as far as like military planes or missiles that hit the towers, I guess as people were getting on the plane, they could have just walked on there and shot everyone and then destroyed the plane or flew it into the ocean.
Right. Or remote flown the airplane with people on it. Yeah. I guess the argument could be, but I mean now you're grasping. You're looking for things to make your theory accurate, rather than just trying to find evidence to prove what's true.
Yeah.
So that's why I can't go to those lengths. I'm gonna always try to break down the theory, and my theory, or the problem with there either being military planes or being no planes and missiles.
There's too much visual evidence.
There's too much visual evidence, and there's too many people that you would have to convince that their family members are dead.
Yeah.
Well, or find some way to get to have an answer for why these people weren't on the planes in the first place. Yeah. So yeah, I just those 2 little things, and then that little caveat.
I think
those are the things that I question when I watch those videos, because like I said, I've watched a ton of them. When you watch a documentary, even if it's not necessarily professionally made, because most of these are not professionally made, and you listen to these theories, it's easy to get wrapped up in how certain the people who are talking are, and go, "Oh, that makes sense." Mm-hmm. But when you stop and you take a step back, and this is true of anything, when you stop and take a step back and you look at it, one person's perception of this evidence, as it's explained to you, may still be inaccurate.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to take it upon yourself to, as we said, look at sources, find out where this is coming from. Mm-hmm. But you also have to use your own instinct in terms of, where does this end? What is the main goal of this?
Yeah.
And we know that there were benefits for financial benefits for people. There was the military benefit for the administration, for members of the administration. But look at where that got us now. Where is that now?
Yeah.
And it seems to me like, yes, we're dealing with people who probably don't give two shits about human life in general.
Not even close to it.
But I don't see the risks.
It just doesn't make
justifying what they got.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. If Dick Cheney had been able to turn that into a maintaining the presidency, whether it be a Bush administration that just kept going on, through another attack, building on top of it to create more power. What does he have now? I mean, yeah, he got a bunch of money, but money's fleeting. I know that's what they want.
I think that's because I
don't see the end game being,
There's not a single second that I doubt the fact that that Cheney and Bush and that administration used this terrorist attack to make more money.
Right.
Absolutely 100%.
But it's hard to see how they could have planned it that way.
I don't think they planned it that way. I think after the fact they looked at it and said, well, now we've got an opportunity.
And you could argue that maybe certain members knew that there was a potential for an attack and said, oh, well, this is our Pearl Harbor. Well, let's let it happen. I can see that.
The 9/11 Commission kind of said that. That there were failures in both the Bush administration and the Clinton administration.
Right. So we can see that there's potential for criminal behavior there.
Yeah.
Because not acting, and when you've taken an oath, a legal oath, I mean, those oaths are legal, not legally binding, that you've broken the law by intentionally, not fulfilling your duty. So there's criminal activity for sure, but not on the level that these conspiracy theories imply. Because they're implying all kinds of
and they are,
but Machiavellian.
The thing behavior. Is with a lot of these conspiracy theories, a lot of it kind of goes back to the fact that the Bush administration, or some of them go back to the Bush administration, that they knew about it before it happened. And there is evidence of that.
Right.
That they knew, because the Clinton administration warned the incoming Bush administration that Osama bin Laden, because of the things that had happened in the last 18 months of the Clinton administration, that they were working towards an attack in the United States. But the thing is, even if you have knowledge that an attack is imminent,
it doesn't necessarily mean you know where.
You don't know where or when. Right. And that's a needle in a haystack.
Theoretically.
But
if you know it's coming, there's things they could have done to put us more on readiness.
And they didn't.
And they didn't.
And I think it's where they kind of fell on the sword.
Right. So, and quite honestly, they were already running. That was the other thing. When I said they were running drills and stuff during that time down south, they were running drills. They were running drills to counteract exactly what was happening that day. Yeah. Now that's where the coincidence comes in.
Doesn't mean anything.
Why were they training that day, which put them away from it for the exact thing that happened that day?
I think a lot of that's easily explained or
strangely coincidental.
Yeah. I don't know. The conspiracy things, I always enjoy these conversations because they're always
it's not
really
like politics and stuff where we're talking and we don't have an answer, and we're talking about real things that are important.
Yeah.
Like racism and things like that, where there's no answer. We get it. We get what's wrong, but we can't fix it.
Yeah.
With this, there's nothing to fix. We can just discuss it and analyze it and have fun with it.
I guess where I'll leave it is, if you find these conspiracies interesting, there's literally thousands and thousands of videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can go check the stuff out.
Loose change is a big one because they've done this is the other thing.
They've done loose 4. I thought it was like spare change or something.
No, it's loose change.
Is it loose change?
They've done 4 editions of it.
Okay.
So if they're so certain, why have they had to alter it 3 other times? I don't know. And then there's different edits of it by other people who are like, well, I agree with all this, but let me edit my stuff into it. And for what it's worth, it's just fun.
Yeah, I have fun talking about these things.
I mean, because granted, we are talking about a very dark chapter in world history.
Yeah.
Not just American history, but world history. And we're still dealing with the ramifications of that. But, life is short, and, we're living in a clown car of a world as it is. So let's have fucking fun with it, man.
I don't
enjoy
know.
it.
Anything else to add there, Ian?
No, just, Have fun with it. Yeah, fuck it.
I guess at the end of the day, it gives you something to laugh at. I guess if you don't buy in any of it,
and if
you do buy into it, I don't know.
Think of it as like a crossword puzzle. You can spend a little bit of time having fun with a crossword puzzle. You can think about it. You can put your own little thoughts and twists into it, and then when it's done, put it away, and then go about your daily life.
All right, well, if you got any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeinjailpodcast. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook, and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you feel like it. I don't know why I clicked. I don't know what the hell that was.
I don't know. I was wondering when you did those languages. I was like, well, I thought maybe it was like a subliminal message thing.
Oh, yeah. Is that what it is?
Because you did it, and then you said, leave us a 5-star review.
There you go.
You just keep doing it, like it's like Pavlov's dog.
Yeah, there you go.
Eventually, click 5-star review.
I need to leave a 5-star review.
To the point where we don't even have to talk, we just click. Yes. The whole show is just clicks. And they're like, 5-star, 5-star, 5-star.
All right, well, until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon. Oh shit. Watch out, you the god, Billy. Oh shit. Right now, and I'm smiling in your face, bitch. With a gold smile, you should probably make placement to your eye. Niggas sick as fuck. Standing with niggas who down for that party. Who down for some bitches who showing their bodies. Swear to God, nigga, this Molly got me up and rolling. These bodies of water. Bring that shit in bottles.